Coraline first encounters the cat as she explores the grounds of her new home, where she sees it sitting on walls and tree stumps. At first, she tried to play with it, but whenever she approached, it ran away. But the two would soon be forced to work together to counter a very powerful ancient evil known as the Beldam. The cat has become one of the most infamous and mysterious characters among Coraline fans, the subject of countless wild theories and speculations.
The cat is actually the reincarnation of the Beldam's ex-lover.
How there's possibly two cats trapped in one body, but both of them are not real cats. One of them is the spirit of Wybie's grandma's father, and the other one is either the son of the other mother or the spirit of the other world.
Even if the cat does work for the Beldam, he could still be related to the Lovett family.
While I do find those ideas a little bit, what's the right word? Unhinged. I do have my own ideas about who this feisty feline really is, so to explore those, let's take a look at the history of the cat from the Coraline novel. To learn about the cat's connections to witchcraft, why he can talk in the Beldam's world, and why the Beldam fears this creature, stick around to the end of this video. This video is sponsored by Audible. Welcome to Horror History. Although I'm sure you don't need a horror history lesson, seeing as how you're the expert on such things. Today we're talking about the cat from the novel Coraline. However, this cat may have actually had an appearance before that, retroactively. The movie adaptation of Coraline is directed by Henry Selick, who also directed the 1993 movie The Nightmare Before Christmas. Both movies are stop-motion animation, so they probably reused the same model, or made a very similar model in Coraline as an Easter egg. In Coraline, the cat gets a voice, courtesy of voice actor Keith David. David has a very deep, silky voice, and he's usually known for playing some kind of monster or badass mercenary, but he'll occasionally voice a creepy cat, like in Once Upon a Time in Wonderland or Coraline. To unravel the mystery of the black cat, we first need to understand its history, so let's take it back to before Coraline entered the picture. Like Coraline, there is only one cat who travels back and forth between the real world and the other world, the realm created by the Beldam to try to trick children into falling into her trap. For this reason, the cat is the only character from Coraline's world who has no otherworld counterparts. Between this and the fact that the cat can talk while in the Beldam's world, I don't think that this cat was always just a cat. One of the more prominent examples of a black cat in culture comes from Greek mythology. Galinthius was a servant of the Greek goddess Hera. Hera wanted to prevent the birth of this dude named Heracles, but Galinthius ruined this plan by saying that the baby had already been born. So as punishment, Hera turned Galinthius into a black cat. It's possible something along these lines happened before the events of Coraline. The cat was probably a human who snuck into the other world and interfered with the Beldam's plan to steal the soul of a kid. At one point, he even tells Coraline that he walked into the other world just like she did. Unable to steal his soul and unable to get her claws on him to kill him, the Beldam was only able to use her magic to turn him into a cat. Like the ghost children who I discussed in a previous horror history, details of his old life, like his name, faded from memory as time passed. In the movie, we even see that the cat has a chunk of his ear missing, as if that was the only body part that the Beldam was able to get her sharp claws on before he scampered away. When Coraline encounters the cat in the other world for the first time, he wishes her a good afternoon, and she thinks its voice sounded like the voice at the back of her head, the voice that she thought words in, but a man's voice, not a girl's. So if the voice didn't actually sound like her, she must have been talking about the cadence, which is why I think that the cat was someone that wandered into the other world just like Coraline. But there's a lot more to it than that. I swear, I'm not one of those unhinged Coraline YouTubers. In the ancient Greek tales, Galinthius was taken in by another Greek deity, Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft and death. This is likely the origin of the trope that's still with us today, where black cats and witches are commonly associated with each other. I've talked a little bit in my other videos about how Coraline herself has witch-like properties. When Miss Spink reads Coraline's tea leaves, the two neighbor women determine that she has danger in her future and give her a stone with a hole in it. They don't explicitly describe what it is, but it's clearly supposed to be an adder stone, sometimes known as a witch stone, an artifact said to give the user magic protections. When Coraline looks through her dresser in the other world, one of the outfits she discovers is a witch costume, and her father has a song about her where he refers to her as his twitchy witchy girl. In the movie, Coraline even pretends to have a magic dowsing rod, and Wybie refers to her as a water witch.
Well, great to meet a Michigan water witch.
Coraline doesn't get along with the cat much at first. He's described as a haughty black cat, meaning that he's arrogantly superior and disdainful. He has no satisfying answer for her as to why he can talk, and when she tells him that cats can't talk at home, he sarcastically states that she's the expert and he's only a cat. Coraline tells him that they could be friends, but he responds by telling her, "We could be rare specimens of an exotic breed of African dancing elephants, but we're not. At least," it added cattily after darting a brief look at Coraline, "I'm not." Before this first conversation ends, she asks the cat what his name is. He insists that cats do not have names, they know who they are. We've seen something like this before here in horror history. When I covered Valak from the Conjuring franchise, I explained how in religions like Christianity, naming a creature gives a person a dominion over it. Lorraine Warren needs to discover Valak's name in order to address it and banish it back to hell. Witches, and by association their black cats, are often seen as evil or threatening in major religions. So by not having a name, the cat makes it harder for anyone to gain power over it by calling or summoning it. There's even a conversation later where the cat points out that calling for a cat is pointless, akin to calling a whirlwind. Black cats have a long history of being linked to the supernatural or spiritual. Ancient Egyptians worshipped the goddess Bastet, who had a black cat's head, and they built huge cat monuments. During the Middle Ages, when major religions that we know today were becoming dominant, witchcraft was seen as a sign of anti-religion, and cats were seen as a sign of bad luck. More recently, Mayday Parade described a black cat who planned to burn down its city with a backpack full of fireworks. Sounds terrifying. This is why dogs are better. The cat commends Coraline on bringing the protective Adderstone and disappears behind some trees. He seems to have the ability to travel through the channels between the two worlds that Coraline can't see or perceive. He literally knows all the ins and outs of this world, suggesting that he's been traveling back and forth for some time. This is probably the reason he was able to discover when Coraline's parents were kidnapped by the Beldam. After Mr. and Mrs. Jones go missing, he greets Coraline on her bed as she wakes up and coaxes her to follow him to the hallway mirror where she can see that her mom and dad are trapped beyond a foggy glass. She asks if he knows where they are, and he blinks at her as if to say yes. This is something that happens a few times. The cat blinks to say yes when in the real world. There's actually a little Easter egg at the beginning of the movie to reference this, which I don't think I've mentioned before.
I'm just looking for an old well. Know it?
As they cross back into the other world, Coraline tells a story about bravery, in which her father protected her from a swarm of wasps when she was younger. The cat asks if that's why she's going back, to try to save them, seemingly not really understanding the point of the story. This may be playing on the idea of cats often being depicted as timid. They are the inspiration for slang terms used to describe a timid person, like scaredy cat or pussycat. Knowing what the other mother truly is, the cat will go in and out of the other world, but doesn't seem keen on confronting her himself. As they cross the threshold, Coraline remarks that her companion is talking again. "How fortunate I am," said the cat, "in having a traveling companion of such wisdom and intelligence." Its tone remained sarcastic, but its fur was bristling, and its brush of a tail stuck up in the air. The two were entering the lair of the beast. If you want the true, dark, twisted world of Coraline, the best way to experience it is with the audiobook, which you can find narrated by Coraline's legendary author Neil Gaiman on Audible. This way you know every line is being told exactly the way the author intended it. Audible offers an incredible selection of audiobooks across every genre, including lots of horror. You'll also discover exclusive Audible originals from top celebrities, comedians, renowned experts, podcasters. I could go on, but the point is you'll never run out of hands-free, eyes-free entertainment in your head. Members get a free title every month that no one can ever take from you, even Omaba. This month I'm checking out American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. Now you might think that I'm listening to it to see how it compared with the movie, and yeah, that's exactly why I chose it. To try out Audible Premium Plus free for 30 days, visit audible.com/CZsWorld or text CZsWorld to 500-500. You'll find that link in the description, audible.com/CZsWorld. The cat disappears for a little while Coraline is speaking to the other mother. It's pretty clear that this is because the two are enemies. He avoids her for most of the story, but he's also quite familiar with her, enough to suggest that she's probably trying to lure Coraline in because she wants something to love or possibly something to eat. He also knows that she can't resist a good game and suggests that Coraline challenge her to one to win back her parents. This is another reason why I think he must have had his own encounter with her in the past. He also recommends that Coraline get some sleep ahead of the long day tomorrow, and that's exactly what she does. Before she gets up the next morning, the other mother goes out to try to fix up the secret passageways that the cat uses to enter and exit her world. This tells me that the Beldam and the cat's fear of each other may be mutual. After all, the Beldam's true form is a spider-like creature, and cats are known to eat spiders. There are multiple occasions where she refers to the cat as vermin. It's also possible that she's just trying to seal up the entryways because her minions are rats and other species that cats are known to devour. When Coraline goes outside that morning, she runs into her furry friend. Its fur stood straight out from its body, and its eyes were wide, while its tail was down between its legs. It did not look a happy cat. It sounds to me like he's very much on edge when he's in the other world. As Coraline explores, the cat explains that there's nothing to find outside of the house because the Beldam hasn't bothered to create it. This line is obviously book only, as the garden is a more important location in the movie, and the 2009 game. Together, they loop all the way around the small world back to the house, which the cat describes using an analogy to a spider web. Spiders' webs only have to be big enough to catch flies. Again, this demonstrates familiarity with the ancient antagonist. She hasn't yet revealed her spidery true form to Coraline. The cat is unimpressed with the Beldam's attempts to keep it out. He also claims that there are ways in and out that she does not know about. He also catches a rat and explains that they're spies for her. He tortures the rat before eating it, adding that some people see the tendency of a cat to play with its prey as a merciful one, because sometimes the prey will get away. This analogy is no mistake. He's suggesting that Coraline's game of hide and seek with the Beldam could result in her getting away, if she plays her cards right. The cat then disappears behind a tree to presumably eat the rat or deposit it somewhere in the real world. At this point, the cat kind of disappears for most of the rest of Coraline's game against the other mother. We don't know if he's hiding away from his evil adversary or just keeping an eye on Coraline's progress from a distance. Her goal is to find the souls of 3 ghost children and her parents, and she's managed to recover 2 of the 3 souls, but the leader of the rats, who I'll just call the big rat, is in the process of getting away with a 3rd. What the cat does is the perfect analogy of why Coraline is definitely part of the horror genre. He catches the rat in his sharp teeth, decapitates it, and stops the soul marble with 1 paw. This one is toned down a little bit in the movie, but the film has no shortage of horrifying moments of its own.
I don't like rats at the best of times, but this one was sounding an alarm.
The cat is unsurprised to learn that the Beldam doesn't plan to let them go, even if Coraline finds her parents to win the game. He's also the first to notice that the house is losing its 3D form and flattening out into a crude drawing. Coraline thanks him for his help and says they can leave and she'll see him back at home, but he tells her that the ways in and out of this world are gone, which seems to be very unsettling for him. Coraline tries to pet him and realizes that he's trembling and his heart is beating hard. So she promises to bring him home with her and carries him into the house where the other mother is waiting. The cat stiffens upon seeing her. Coraline tricks the other mother into opening up the passageway in between the 2 worlds, the link between worlds, if you will, in order to prove that her parents aren't there. Coraline has a plan, but the cat clearly isn't in on it. She does her best alinity and throws the cat at the other mother. It lands on her head and flails at her with claws and teeth. As Coraline grabs the snow globe containing her real parents, the cat bites the Beldam's cheek and draws the black, tarry blood that flows within her. After throwing a claw to her face, he joins Coraline in a sprint to the corridor that bridges the 2 worlds, and after slamming the door on their enemy, urges Coraline to run with him, the last words he would ever say to her out loud. They get back to the Jones family's drawing room, where Coraline apologizes for throwing him, and he seems to accept this apology by purring, licking her finger, and falling asleep in her lap. He wakes up before Coraline and waits by the door when Coraline's parents come inside in order to quickly run away before they can do or say anything. I'm guessing he didn't want to take any chances with how they'd react to an unfamiliar animal in their house, or he just didn't trust any creature vaguely resembling Coraline's mother at this point. Can you really blame him? Again, the cat disappears for a week, the time that Coraline spends defeating the Beldam's dismembered hand that had scuttled its way into the real world. When they saw each other again, the cat winked at her and rolled onto his back, allowing Coraline to scratch the fur on his belly. Through their journey together, the 2 had become friends. The witch had found her cat, and more importantly, Coraline kind of has someone more suitable to spend time with now. Wybie is not in the book at all, so she has no one to play with or talk to, and the other adults in her world don't really listen to her. I think that's part of what made the other world, where the cat could talk, so appealing to Coraline at the beginning of the story. But as she learned, she doesn't need verbal cues to communicate with this animal. And that's the end of the cat's story in the book. In the movie, things are a bit different because the cat seems to be attached to Wybie in the beginning because he feeds it, and the final shot shows him disappearing through one of the hidden portals, presumably back into the other world, which may have been reopened after the Beldam's defeat. I talk about Wybie, the Beldam, Coraline, and others in their own horror history episodes. For all of my Coraline character breakdowns, hit that playlist on the left. But first, make sure you subscribe to CZsWorld for new horrors every week, ring the death bell and select all notifications, and I will see you in the next one. Assuming we both survive.